Ladies and gentlemen, fellow human, welcome to another episode of Disorganized Productions. Today we're going to talk with Libby, also known as Lady Liberty, Libby, on Instagram. And please introduce yourself to the audience, Libby.
Hi. Hi, Rob. Thank you so much for having me on. I haven't done a podcast in a long time. I'm really excited. I'm Libby. Online currently, I go by Lady Liberty Libby. That's one of several different Instagram, handles I've had over the last maybe 6 years or so since I got onto social media. I used to not have any social media. And then I had everything for a little while, and now I just have Instagram and my Patreon. So, but I'm a lot more than just the girl on Instagram scaring everybody with the truth, because I know it can be really scary for some people when they come across some of the information on my page. It's not just kind of regular, I don't know, red pill, black pill stuff to some people. So, but I don't know, I'm a stay-at-home full-time mom. I homeschool my almost 7-year-old son. I have 2 older daughters that are amazing. They're adults. It's shocking sometimes. I was born and raised in Southern California, in LA. I'm technically a Valley girl, but I'm not a Valley girl at all. So I don't know, I'm a first-generation American. My parents are from Israel. My mother's from Morocco. I'm technically African, actually. So I'm probably closest to African American than most Africans are, I think, today, maybe here even. But I say that kind of stuff because English was my second language. Hebrew was my first language.
Oh, wow.
I really highly, highly respect being born in America. Was extremely important for me. I was born and raised here, and so I don't know, I've been through a lot. I think we all have a story, to tell. And I've always been very inquisitive. I've always asked a lot of questions. I'm always looking for the truth. I've been through, I've had a very traumatic past. There's been a lot of traumatic things that I've survived. We could get into it if you wanted to, but I feel like ultimately all of the things that I went through is what molded me and created me into being who I am today, so that I can hopefully, the information I share is not to terrify people. It's not to instill fear. That's not the purpose of it. It's to help people. When people say, truthers, patriots, whatever country, right? Freedom lovers, say things like break free of the matrix. I don't know if they understand what that means to the same extent that some other people do, because everyone's kind of on their own journey of waking up to different things. And I feel like some people hit like a wall where they can't go past, they can't accept any more truth. It's too much. And I don't know, for some reason, I've been given this gift of discernment, of maybe some premonition stuff, to see what's going to happen past kind of what is obvious, I suppose. I don't know. And I've been able to connect things in a way where I guess not that many people are able to do it. I kind of find that shocking sometimes.
Right.
Like, really? You don't see this? Like, come on, it's right there. And then I'll go, what are you talking about? And I'll be like, well, this and this sound exactly the same. Here, listen to them side by side, or look at them side by side. Now, what do you think? And I feel like it's in the beginning when I first started talking about 2045, because that's probably the thing that you watched and saw and came across. It wasn't something that I came out of Libby's mind, like Libby's brain. It wasn't my doing. It was something that was, best way to describe it, I guess, it was something that was just shown to me the night of May 19th, 2022, when I had what some people call a near-death experience.
Wow.
So I came back and I was writing and doodling, the numbers 2045 and little robots and weird little things. And I didn't even find that notepad until like a year later. And I went through it and was like, wow.
Hmm.
Like I showed my husband, I'm like, I've never seen this before. Like this was from
Right.
last year. Now it's been
Right.
almost 2 years. Um, but yeah, so a lot of the information that initially I started to put out was hard to articulate the way I was trying to because I was literally still healing from a seizure and a heart attack that night. So the comprehension, even how I sounded in some of the early videos from that year, I had a few people, if you went through comments that are, and they mean well, they didn't know, but they would say
Mhm.
things like, you sound like a robot talking about robots. Did you do that on purpose? And I would think, no,
You
that's
don't
what
know.
you sound like after you've had a seizure and your brain is
Right.
trying to come back. But I was so eager to get the information out that I couldn't wait
Hmm.
until I could make more sense, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And it's great
yeah.
that you connect the dots, especially for people that are awake or maybe are getting awake, that
Yeah.
oh, on this side we have like a flat earth, or on that side we have like 9/11 was a hoax, the moon landing was a hoax. But okay, that was in the past, and still now some of these topics are going on. But
Right.
what's more important to know is what did do they plan for the future?
Right.
And you point that out, just like it's not like, okay, if you're stuck in the past about the moon landing, you can discuss a lot of it. You can have a great night with a beer with friends, but
Right.
what are we going to? What's their plan? And you pointed out
Yeah.
very, very carefully and very you connect the dots about the agendas that's been folded out. It's not like it's a closed agenda. It's something like
No.
it's really there and it's really frightening. Um,
Yeah.
what was your journey? Because just like we before we hopped on recording, we were talking briefly about the things that happened in the past from you, and these are quite shocking and traumatic. I can understand.
Yeah.
What was your first experience of near death? Because you had several, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like a cat. There's been a few, yeah, crazy things that I've survived. I mean, the very last incident that happened on May 19th of 2022, right? There was other times where I feel like a lot of us have had like a really bad car accident
Hmm.
or, an injury that could have changed our lives. I experienced that too, right? Maybe a sickness or something. I've had that too. But or like a whole different life. Like I was, I have a great husband now, and we're working through a lot of the same things that a lot of couples are working through that are waking up and wanting to fall back into what I like to call traditional roles, right?
Hmm.
Because I personally feel like this whole mess began. People ask me, like, how did this happen? What do you think happened?
Right.
Um, my personal opinion is they attacked the nuclear family first. And within the nuclear family, they attacked the men
Hmm.
first. First. And I feel like one of the very first things they did was, as a woman, my mom's very traditional as well. She was a stay-at-home mom, and but she worked outside the home prior to being a mom like I did. And that was a choice I made. I wanted to. Uh, but I forgot, I lost my train of thought now. Um, what was I just
From your
talking about? The
husband
gender
that
role.
they take out.
Right. So because what they did really, the way that I see it, one of the things my mom used to tell me was, how do you get to a man, right? Like how do you win him over? Like you get to a man through his stomach. You learn how to cook, right? A man likes a home cooked meal. Who doesn't like a home cooked meal,
Hmm.
right? So that type of thing, I feel like it used to be something in the home that was very natural. Women knew how to cook.
Hmm.
Men ate at home. And it seems silly maybe, but when I look back at it and I think back to how everything began with the Rockefellers and with just the families and the systems, right? The systems they created, the educational system, the work system, like all of that. They needed the men to stay away from home long enough so they could get to the women. And the way they did it was with fast food. Fast food places sprung up, and as soon as fast food places sprung up, men didn't have to go home to eat and see their wives. Wives didn't have to send their men to work with a packed lunch like my mom did with my dad,
Right.
throughout, and like I do with my husband. And I get mad. He'll tell you. I get upset if he forgets his lunch. I get upset if I've, put the effort and the love in to do it, and it was kind of not seen for what it is. But as silly as it sounds, that one little thing that they came in to make it easier for convenience, for all of those, cheaper,
Faster,
didn't
bigger.
help.
No.
I mean, if you look back at it, it didn't help, because soon after that, not that long later, was the feminine movement. Like that was the beginning of it, and then women were sold into, it was, you need to vote, which is great, yes, but then you need to go get a job now, outside the home, because what you're doing inside, raising children and making sure that your home is a comfortable, safe place for your children and for your husband to come home to, because that's what men need after they've been working all day, right?
Right.
So that she can also have that time. Like the way the whole system, the way they picked at everything, I think is what I see from up here. You know what I mean? Like they went to the men, and as soon as they kept them away long enough, they could go, hey, you should go work. Why are you just home all day? You don't even get to see him anymore. Go to work. You deserve money, right? Then what else? There was pornography over here that began too. And then men started watching porn in magazines and things. That was also something that they instituted that separated and divided the family. Because divorce and stuff didn't used to be something that was so prevalent in families amongst societies all across the damn earth up until like the 1950s, 60s, 70s.
Right.
Then there was divorces. Then there were latchkey kids. Then there was my generation. I mean,
Generation
it's just when
X.
you look through it, you know what I mean? That's how so of course today we have generations of children that are attached to their screen by the time they're born with a screen on their face. Like I've literally seen infants with a screen in their, bassinet. Like it's ridiculous.
And critical thinking is not something that they are been learned. You have to do that at homeschooling. Because they just want
that's
everything,
why people
everything to them, because they know that on a screen I can demand with one finger everything. So I want to have everything in my zone with demand. And I think you're also about. I'm never going to ask a woman for their age, but I think you're also
an 80s baby.
Generation
I was an 80s
X.
baby and a 90s teen.
Yeah, all right. So we went out to do stuff and stuff like that, right? And probably when we were asking for something, my mom or my dad said, well, search for yourself and stuff like that. I see that now with the newer generation, they just want, because they know that they normally push a button and something happens. They want that
instant gratification.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's
dopamine.
That's something bad.
It is very bad.
When you pointed out just like how the system worked about getting the man from home and provide them so-called fast fix lunch, feminism, of course, we saw also right now that the prices are going to get so high that you have to work. There's no way that you can raise your own child with a normal job from one man. And in like 20, 30 years ago, it was normal for a man to go work, having a good job, and mom stayed at home, took care of the children, and probably there was one or two vacations that they could afford, and a car and a nice house. Nowadays, you have to work with two people only to get your head above the water, because otherwise you're going to sink. So
For sure, but I feel like it also depends on the lifestyles that people want to choose to live. I
Absolutely
mean,
true.
I went from living in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage apartment 10 minutes away from the beach in Southern California in 2022, right? That apartment was expensive, but it depends on what you're making, but it
Mm.
depends on your lifestyle and what you're choosing to spend your money on. So it doesn't, and then we went from living there, right? And I'll tell you a little bit more, but like we went from living there to living in an RV, a 26-foot RV,
Uh-huh.
for a year and a half.
Wow.
Myself, my husband, our son from the age of about just after 5.5-ish or so, until we just moved into this apartment a month
Mhm.
ago. And we lived all over the place, I guess, sort of. Like, I mean, we moved around a lot over the last 3 years, just trying to find safety and trying to
Right.
find freedom and liberty. And a lot of it had to do with the decisions that we made. A lot of it had to do with a lot of my research and a lot of the stuff that was happening,
Mhm.
because I would point something out and then go, oh, but what do I know? I
Right.
see this over here and I see this over here, and I feel like this is what's coming down there, but
Mhm.
we'll see. And then it would happen. I'd go, oh, well, damn. And then it would happen again, and then it would happen again, and then it would happen again. And so, and sometimes there would be dreams that would accompany different things that, that's where I would think to even get the idea from. It didn't come from me. It came from, I woke up and I dreamt it. So now I'm going to go see, oh my God, that's actually real. It wasn't just a dream.
Wow.
Okay, well, maybe it was a dream because it was real and I needed to find it, right?
Mhm.
But that very quickly becomes extreme insanity when you're actually trying to live your life,
Uh-huh.
and that's what you're experiencing, and there's no one for you to really talk to that can say to you in person, because online is very different. I've had people online tell me they had similar experiences, but on a human level, because
Mhm.
we're humans, we need another human in front of us, touching us, right?
Right.
Telling us it's
Right.
okay. You're not alone. You're not the only person this happened to,
Yeah.
right? And I haven't had that. So it's been myself and telling my
Loneliness.
husband, who, God bless him, is just a human man
Uh-huh.
trying to provide for his family and make the right decisions for his family, and is awake because I'm his damn wife. How could he not be?
Yep, but that's not something like, oh, that's normal, right? So I have some
No,
belief
it's
system,
not.
and the other one is just like, okay, because you're my wife or you're my husband, that's okay. Because a lot of people struggling with that,
Mm-hmm.
with the isolation about knowing things, or just look at this, or just look at that, and the other one says like, are you going nuts? I can't deal with
Right.
this anymore.
Right.
There are a lot of people so God bless for you that you have found the right husband on that terms.
Yeah. At the same time, I've had to pull away from sharing every single piece of
Hmm.
everything I find with him just because he's my husband. Because I've
Right.
been able to see how damaging that can be for just a person, and my husband, a man nonetheless, who's trying to
Hmm.
be protective and a provider, right? So
Right.
it gets to a point, I feel like, for humans, where you start to feel very hopeless and helpless because you
Hmm.
don't know how to beat the system, how to exit the matrix. And then you come across all these different profiles that are telling you, here, exit the matrix, defund, right?
Right.
And so you sign up for all this stuff because you want to get away from all these places that are all evil, right? Costco and Target, and okay. But we live in the world, unless we hate it so much, like I did, like
Hmm.
my husband did, where we go, I'm going to leave. I'm going to make a conscious decision, right? I was not as conscious as my husband was at the
Hmm.
time. I was still recovering. However, I was, yeah, let's get the RV. I mean, I just came back from death. I just saw things and heard things, and I'm now finding things in this reality, in this realm, that match up with what I saw and felt in a different realm. Wow. I don't care what there's people that want to call it all sorts of essential, all sorts of weird things.
That doesn't matter, right?
I personally stick to the Bible because I'm first and foremost, I 100% do not doubt in any way, shape, or form that I'm living in the end times that's described in the Holy Bible and the scriptures. That's me personally. Jesus is my savior. He is my Messiah. I was born Jewish. I will die Jewish. So is he. But I say that because that's the truth. That's not just what happened to me. That is the actual literal truth. You don't have to be a believer to look around and say to yourself, something is seriously not right with the world at all. Like something is off. There's no way, unless you've been living in a tribe in Africa, that you don't know what the World Economic Forum is, what the World Health Organization is. Like, there's no way that you don't know these names and that you can say that you can associate these names with positive headlines. No, you haven't. That's not true. And so I feel like people are suffering from truly like a mass psychosis where it's happened before in history. If you go back to, I think it was World War I, around the Civil War, or right before the Second War, but I think it was the First War, so don't quote me 100%. There was the Bolshevik whole situation, and that's literally, if you look at the Q movement, which I believed for a while too, and you look at what happened with Bolshevik, it's the same thing. Right. It's the same thing. There's not really much of a difference. History repeats. I got sucked into the Q movement as well for a little bit. I got sucked into believing the plan and we the people and all of that. And for me, what happened was it took me to a really dark place really fast because of what was also happening in my personal life. Like, the world shut down and my daughters moved out because mom had been warning everyone that the world was going to shut down because of a dream I had. So that was something in my personal life that was really, really, really difficult, because I went into an extremely difficult I was grieving. I didn't realize I was grieving at the time, but I was. And I know for a fact that millions upon millions of families have gone through the exact same thing that my husband and I and our son went through, where our families just split up. Everyone split up. Everything we knew was gone. The friends, the family, the job, the atmosphere. I could not walk into a grocery store to get milk and eggs and bread for my son without being hounded, assaulted, like physically assaulted. Wow. Having people at the stores trying to physically remove me and my almost 3-year-old son from Trader Joe's. Why? Because I'm not putting a mask on. Like, there's nothing you can say to me that would cause me to do it either. Like nothing. I won't bend. I won't go to the eye doctor, and I need to go to the eye doctor because I won't put the mask on. To the point where it pissed my husband off, because he's like, you need to go to the hospital. No, not if they mask me. I'd rather die. This is my hill. You don't seem to understand. I will die then. So then you need to accept that that's what I'm willing to do. Instead of being angry at me, help me. How can you help me? Make me comfortable till I die? Really, that was where I was at right before I had the seizure and the heart attack, because of how sick I was. And I was sick with bilateral pneumonia that I was told was long haul COVID, but there's no such thing. It was the 5G radiation that was making me sick from the tower that was 150 feet away from me in Huntington Beach. And so because of the way I am, I proved it. I felt it. I knew it. I didn't doubt it. People could say whatever they want to me. It didn't mean jack shit, because my gut in here is saying, that's why you're sick. So even if that doesn't make sense here, it doesn't need to make sense here for Libby, for me. Right. I'm not logical like that. I'm not rational like that. And I know that I've gotten a lot of shit for saying this, okay, for what I'm about to say. But I personally, I'm a real woman. So for me, that's what this means. I operate from my emotions. I'm an emotional being first. It doesn't mean I don't have logic and rationale. That's not what that means. It means I'm a girl, I'm a girly girl. And if I feel something, I'm going to be like, what's that? That's my natural state of being, right? Now, on the other side of that, and I think a lot of women will relate to this, if I'm in a relationship with a guy and I feel like he's cheating on me, but I don't want to accept it, I'm going to go do something to make that feeling stop because I don't want to face it and accept it. And that is the same cognitive dissonance, that feeling like that happens to people instead of down here, up here, the way I see it. When it comes to things like the earth is flat, let me show you all of the actual scientific evidence. And then we can have a conversation, right? You can show me your scientific evidence. Okay, then we can break it down and show how even the math that you're using is completely incorrect math. Yeah, we have to go back down to that basic level of we're taught math incorrectly because none of that actually makes sense. Now, I mean, it becomes very, you know, like minuscule little things, but that's how I feel the devil hides the truth. He'll put a bunch of lies and there's a little truth and you're like, well, that's still the truth. No, it's not. It's covered in bullshit. It is a lie that you are believing because you feel better about it. That's it. That's all that is. And there's no difference to me between that feeling that a woman has that I have in terms of in a relationship or my senses telling me what I've always known, the earth is flat. Like, things like that. Like, I have been in enough airplanes and looked with my own eyes to know and to feel flatness. I mean, I feel like there's just this serious disconnect that humans have developed. I don't feel like it's natural. That's why I say developed, because I feel like when we remove ourselves from technology, from other humans that can influence us with their energy, right? We can just be with ourselves and feel and try to, you know, analyze like, what is this exactly? And I don't feel like enough people,
others,
and I don't feel like enough, because it influences you whether you want it to or not. I mean, it will. And I feel like it's important for people when they're searching for the truth to give themselves that place where they can just sit quietly and feel. The truth is the truth, and it's going to come out regardless. So if I'm lying or if what I shared isn't the truth, you'll know, and so will I. And I don't have a problem being like, that wasn't the truth. But that's why I'm also really careful before I share anything. I don't have thousands and thousands of things that I've shared on this particular account because I'm not doing it out of what I want to share. I'm doing it out of what I'm led to share. So most of the time, it's not stuff that is out there like right away or that's out there at all. And that's why a lot of people didn't know about Agenda 2045, because there's not that many people that are calling it for what it is. They'll just say transhumanism, or they'll get it completely wrong and say it's Agenda 2030, and it's not. There's not one word of transhumanism in Agenda 2030's literature. If you read the actual literature, the PDFs, right, the guidelines, all that stuff, there's nothing in there about transhumanism. It is a blueprint for the next level, which is Agenda 2045, which is transhumanism. So what you see now with like Elon Musk, the Neuralink implant that was just approved and implanted in the first patient. And I'm actually about to share something at noon today with that first patient who was, I knew was a paralyzed person who was paralyzed, who can now control a computer screen and play chess with his thoughts. He doesn't have to touch anything. There's no wired anything. It's
so
his
Steve
brain.
Hawkins 2.0.
Yeah, that's exactly what they want. It's literally what it's called, is human 2.0.
And that's isn't that really frightening? Or should
be to everybody?
Should be, yeah, exactly. Because when you look into AI, we got overloaded with AI. Even businesses start with AI and stuff like that. So there's almost no human interaction for doing business. You know, you have Chat GPT, you can make videos, you can make pictures, animations, whatever you think, songs. It's a crap song that he made out with AI, but it can do that. The thing is,
Mhm.
do we want to have hybrid humans that can think for themselves and can be shut down from other people by computer, just like, oh, number 670, 80,000 free is going to the grocery store, but we don't like that. Turn off the switch and it just maybe dies. There are too many things that, especially if you look what our little homie Klaus Schwab tries to tell WEF, non-elected leader, which leads the
Mhm.
world on politics, about what they're trying to do with Agenda 2045, right?
Mhm.
And it should frighten us because when we are aware of all these things, we can say no and we can make a plan to get these things out of our lives because together we're strong.
How?
But when nobody noticed it and just keep on walking the path, and you know,
Mhm.
there's a cliff on the end, and everybody just walk, and just at the end, just like, oh my God, there's a cliff, falls down, and the next one falls
Yeah.
down, next one falls down, then it's too late. And I think what you're trying to point out is look at this, what's happening right now in the world, and where they're heading to.
Mhm.
And that's something that should be um that should be our action for the future right now, because
Right.
we can only change the future by being in the present and knowing what they want. So you know, if you know the plans, we can get up to them and say no until here, and that stops. So,
Mhm.
and the way you woke up and do all these beautiful things, because I think it has something dark with it, but it's still
Mhm.
beautiful because finally you find a fellow human is bringing out some truth. What
Yeah.
did it do with your family? Because you were talking about wearing no mask, but you're bringing out some
Mhm.
content that probably scares the hell out of some leaders or some
Yeah.
governments, right? So, do you experience some hatred or maybe threats from them against you and your family?
From like government or
Yeah.
anything, or what do you mean? No, I have not gotten anything like that. I'm not known enough. I wouldn't want to be. I don't want an arrow on my head. That's why for a long, long time, even prior to, you know, making the documentary and all that stuff that I did, the information that when I was sharing stuff, I did it very much like everybody else. Like I found something and I just shared it. There was
Hmm.
no face, there was no talking, there was no explaining. There was just look. Once in a while, I might be like, "This is bullshit," like so, something like that,
Yeah.
right? But there was no like. I mean, I was very, very, very angry. I'm not angry about these things anymore. I
Hmm.
was prior to having a heart attack and prior to May 19th of that year, I was very angry. And it was the anger um, and the fear that drove me
Hmm.
with the decisions that I was making in terms of like, I mean, it was more than just anger and fear. There was a lot of, justifiable anger. You don't get to do this. My parents suffered through hell to get to this country so I could be born here. Like,
Hmm.
how dare you? What the hell? Like, I was like,
Right.
what is everyone doing? I was losing my mind. Like, I was going crazy. I was a person that was going into the stores yelling and screaming with like a yellow star. I started wearing that all the time. Like it wasn't something that I just wore when I went to board meetings. Initially, it was like the little outfit you see my profile picture that I haven't changed in years because I
Hmm.
don't care. But and people try to get me like, it's your brand. I'm like, there's no brand. There's Libby. Like that's it. There's just I
Right.
don't even know what that exactly means. There's just me. So if
Mm.
I'm a brand, okay, I'm the opposite of Madonna, Libby. Like that's the most opposite I could think of to me would be Madonna, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that I did with very, very good intentions that spiritually and from a biblical standpoint makes zero sense, like zero at all. And I'll tell you why. So all the board meetings I went to, I went all over the place when I was able to with my son. So I dragged him along everywhere with me. And for him, a lot of it was fun because when patriots get together, there's music and there's singing and there's food and there's flags and there's American, and he's running around like loves it, right? But we're the ones as the adults, mostly the moms, because there was not very many men at most of the functions and most of the meetings that I went to with other strong, courageous, brave women. But we would all turn around and be like, well, they're working. Someone has to work and make the money while we are fighting for our kids.
Right.
And it got to a point for me where, and nothing negative that I'm saying about my husband at all. Like, the man is a labor union worker and works his ass off in the entertainment industry and works behind the scenes and has been on strike, and it's been really difficult. And as much as I hate Hollywood and he hates Hollywood, this is his job and this is his career, right? So when people are like, I hate Hollywood, okay, but you're still watching TV. Like, you still watch TV. Even when you think you're not watching something that's funded by Hollywood, I promise you are, because you're streaming it from somewhere. And that's being funded by Hollywood producers. I don't care how much you want to break away from the matrix and defund the system. You're not doing it. Like, that's ultimately, people think they are, and they have this belief, and it makes them feel better about going to work and living in the matrix. And I did it. Like, I did it myself. I downgraded into an RV. We did that whole thing. We left the state and then moved into the forest in the middle of nowhere and lived there for 7 or 8 months, I think it was, our time away from California. And we lived in the RV primarily until we ended up in a small little home in a beautiful little spot overlooking a lake. However, all of the fight that I had, all of the determination and all of the work that I was really, really willing to do, I started feeling like, what's the point of doing this if I'm here by myself with my son and my husband, who's really angry because it's just the three of us. It's just the three of us, and we're struggling. We're struggling like all fuck because we left the matrix. We're in the middle of the forest. We're trying not to use chemicals, and bugs are killing us and eating us. Like, let's get really basic. Basic. Because if you're breaking away from the matrix, are you doing it completely? Are you doing it in little tiny little pieces? Do you have any idea how difficult it actually is to actually do? Yeah. Do you think it's that fucking easy that you can sit on your phone, swipe, and go, I'm going to join this Patriot Box company. Now I've defunded the matrix and I'm good. No. That's not happening. No. That's not happening. You're living in the same kind of delusion that I was last year, when I thought that at 40-something years old, with serious corneal problems in my eyes that stopped me from being able to see, like I see a cloud. That's what I start to see, is a fog, a thick, thick, thick fog. And there's nothing I can do to wipe it away. That's the issues. That's the main issue I have with my corneas, is heavy fogginess and haze because of the scar tissue on my corneas from what exactly no doctors have been able to exactly tell me. I've been diagnosed with so many different horrifying conditions under the sun. It could be anything from ectasia post-LASIK, which is a condition that occurs because you have a form of laser eye surgery. There's several different types, from LASIK to PRK to LASIK to, and I had PRK many, many, many years ago. And I should not have, because I wasn't a candidate. And the doctor knew it, but he did it anyways. And he did it for $3,000 that I paid to have it done so that I wouldn't have to wear glasses, because I was very, very, very nearsighted. But that was all a lie. All of that was a lie. Like, literally all of it was a lie. But I didn't know it was all a lie, because like any other patient, you go through life from the moment you're born and you just listen to somebody else tell you what to do, instead of sitting and being like, so I can't see very well. I've been wearing glasses for 20 years. My eyesight's not getting any better. And what do I want to do about this? How do I want to fix it? Nobody ever really sits there, because what are you going to do? Are you a doctor? Do you know how the eyes work? Do you know how the brain works? Do you know what holistic, do you have any idea? No. Do you want to take the time to? Do you have the time? Are you working?
Right,
Do you have kids?
right.
Like, you have a whole life that you have to
You
actually
have
deal
a
with.
bunch of other stuff going
And you,
on.
right? But now, so then what do? You do the same thing that every single human being has done or is doing. You go to a doctor, and then they tell you what's going on. You believe them, and then you do whatever they tell you, right?
Right.
And
right.
most of the time you don't get better. Most of the time you get sicker, or other things start to go
To
wrong.
develop. Yeah.
That was how it started for me. When did that exactly happen? 7, 5, 6 months old, 20, 30. It doesn't really, there was a whole bunch of little things that happened all throughout my life. And it got to the point when my son was born, and he was a year and a half old, and he had taken the second MMR booster, because they give him the MMR and then they give him the booster, like at a year and a half or so. And I did what everyone else does, even with the crap I'd gone through the medical system and how much I knew, like, the news is a lie. And there were certain things I just always was like, I'd look around and be like living in LA, there's this one forecaster. Everyone in LA knows him. His name's Dallas Raines. The man has not changed, doesn't look any different than he did 30 years ago. Weird things like that, right? Where I'm like, it's all a lie. It's just all like some Truman Show Matrix lie.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we walk around it like it's life and all that there is, right? And at some point for me, maybe around the time that I had my son, soon afterwards from that shot, the way that his body took to that shot and the way that I felt as a mother watching him, I knew that something was really wrong. And because of the way I am, my personality being very why, and not satisfied with the answer unless I've really am satisfied with it, I was able to figure out that it was the shot. I just couldn't stop. I couldn't give in. I couldn't listen to this or listen to my husband even telling me that it was fine, or the doctor, the nurse. I had to do what I had to do. And for me, it was going into the pediatrician's office and demanding, initially asking and then demanding the insert to the shot. The way they reacted when I asked them for the insert to the shot they gave him was wrong. Nobody reacts like that. Like, what are you trying to hide? Like, you don't have to be me you don't have to be an empath or an intuitive person. I mean, it helps definitely, because men and women, people who identify as being empaths or intuitives or highly sensitive people, right? We all have the same thing in common. We've been under massive amounts of trauma that caused and created a hypervigilant nervous system. That's what it is. We call it all these other things, but that's what it is. So my nervous system is trained now at 40-something years old to spot the threat. It doesn't matter where I
from
am
a distance far away.
I can feel it and I can sense it. I can walk into a room and I know if the person against the wall is sad, if they're depressed, if they're homicidal, suicidal. I could tell if that guy is just a creepy jerk. She's a creep. Like, I just could tell, like, I could feel it. She's really sad and I need to go give her a hug. Like, to the point where for many years, I didn't know how to exist in groups of people, because I just felt everything too much and would leave crying and angry. And it wasn't until I was able to kind of just, figure those things out that I was able to try and start to learn how to detach from other people. And I'm still learning. Like, this whole situation that's happened with COVID, with the hoax, for me personally, with the near-death experience and things, has affected my life in a lot of really harmful ways, because I was chasing the same thing that I feel like everybody else was. And I really thought that I could do it. And I couldn't. And I shouldn't say I couldn't. I didn't want to. And that created couldn't, because I didn't want to. Because ultimately, and I very much do believe this, there's no such thing as can't. There really isn't. You either want to or you don't know how, and you don't want to. Like, there's one or the other. I either want to and I know how to do it, or I want to learn how to do it, right? Or I don't want to. You can't what? Fly? You don't know how. I bet if you could figure out how to fly, maybe you would. Like, but you don't know how. The best you could do is get onto like, I mean, you know, could I be a farmer? Yeah. Did I want to be? Yeah. Did I want to be in a forest? Did I want to get eaten by bugs? No. Did I want like to not be able to walk? No. Did I want to miss out on the ocean, the beach for the rest of my life? Fuck no. Did I want to be away from my family, my daughters, even if I don't see them every day? No. There was all these no's. No, nope, nope, nope. And I struggled a lot because I very much felt like what happened to me was real. But I started to doubt if it was real because I wasn't feeling the way I thought I was supposed to feel about what I felt God wanted me to do. You know, which was to leave California, to tell people about 2045, to do all these different things, to be self-sufficient. Why? Because that is the answer ultimately. Why aren't I doing it? I didn't want to. Like, I didn't want to do it in a forest. I lost hundreds of followers because I came out and finally was like, I hate it here. I don't want to do this. I want to go back to some comfort. This is miserable. Why aren't you doing it? Because it fucking sucks. Why are people attached to the matrix? Because it's not easy. You can't just do it. If you could just do it, we would all have chickens and cows. And if it was just
you
like,
need
you know what I mean?
sacrifice.
No.
You need sacrifice.
It's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah, and a lot.
And money. You need a lot of money. That's why they're going after the things that they're going after. Because what I came to realize from where we went, and I feel like, you know, I won't speak for my husband. I don't want to bring it in. But what I felt like was that being a middle class family for many years, because we both worked hard, we both made sacrifices. Me being a stay-at-home mom to my daughters was a sacrifice. It was a sacrifice and a privilege at the same time. But it was a privilege because we sacrificed, and it was a sacrifice because it was a privilege.
Right.
So
there's always this
we
balance,
knew
right?
that going into it. It was what's most important. What's most important? You'll always have time to work. Always. But I could tell you, as a mother of a 20-year-old, almost 21, almost 18, you'll never get that time back with them when they're little. As hard as it is, as frustrating. I didn't homeschool my daughters. I homeschool my son, and it is hard. It's very, very, very hard. There's no other kids around right now. He's been through a lot. There's a lot of behavioral stuff that we have to help him cope with, because he's a victim of the COVID hoax. Like every other child on earth is a victim of a hoax that brainwashed them and stole their childhoods. Every single child on earth has had their childhood stolen from them because their parents went one of two ways. They either fought or they submitted. Doesn't matter which one, but they did one or the other. And their children were victims and had their childhoods robbed, just like my son did. And I fought my ass off. I was in meetings yelling and screaming and threatening city members that I was going to take their jobs. Like, it's on camera too. Someone recorded me like in Huntington Beach telling her, like, I'm coming for your job. And I meant it at the time. Right. And if I was living down there, I would take her job in a heartbeat. And I hate politics, just because the only way that I feel like we can beat any of this is on a very local, small scale. And I feel like it has to start inside of your home with your own family. So if you have to work, I hope that it is worth the time that you're missing with your children. And I hope that you're being paid well, and that you're being treated well, and that your child is in a public school, God forbid, but if they are, they're being treated well. They're not in danger because, or they're in a private setting, or something. I feel like my heart was in the right place, and my husband's heart was in the right place. And I feel like, I tried as best as I could with the tools that I had at the time, to accomplish what I still feel like God wants me to do. I don't care if I disappointed people on Instagram. I couldn't care less. It bothers me that I
For
maybe
yourself,
disappointed
right?
my husband and myself. But above that, what I have personally, just Libby has had to cope with is feeling like maybe I disappointed God, because that's not what I wanted to do. But that's for me,
Was there
talking about
this
20,
was there
huh?
this opening, this awakeness? Because you've been through a lot. I mean, I see BPS, that's bladder symptoms, chronic disease. You're an ambassador of the chronic disease department also, because you had, and I hope I pronounce it well, interstitial cystitis.
It's a hard one. It's a
Yeah, it's
really
a
hard
hard
one.
one.
It's okay. It took me a real, it's okay.
It's the same. I
God
had a
bless you.
disease too, and I couldn't pronounce it for like a year. I have to really.
You know what? It's a disease that I don't have. I actually never did. I was misdiagnosed repeatedly by multiple expert medical professionals that for a little bit I trusted. But I don't have interstitial cystitis. That's how you say it. Interstitial cystitis. It is interstitial cystitis. The real causation of true IC is I did this for so long. This was what I did online for a very long time, was dissect female health. Like, I became a doctor in a lot of weird ways, and I was helping a lot of women all across the world figure out what the hell was happening to them, because doctors couldn't figure it out. Really,
Wow.
it's crazy. But that's what I was doing for a long time. And I would tell people, I have no certification. I'm not licensed. Like, I'm not an actual doctor. I'm just a woman that got sick and tired of being told that you're crazy because you're having pain, and take this and take this and do this, and
Yeah.
just deal with it. Meanwhile, my life was falling apart because I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand. I really couldn't, like, without excruciating, mind-numbing pain. And they all thought it was my bladder. And after doing a tremendous amount of research, like I had done with my son, because of the shot that he had taken and proven that it was the ingredients in the MMR booster, that's why he was having the symptoms that he started having, which is basically, it's toxicity. It's just an overload of toxicity of heavy metals in your body, along with all the other nasty crap they put in there that your body is trying to cope with and figure out what to do with. So he was so young at the time, there wasn't much we could do, right? Like, there really, it can be dangerous to detox a 1.5-year-old child that's having 104 fevers because they just injected him with poison. I didn't know, and I left them because it's a vaccine.
Yeah.
That's what happens. That's what happens. And so he started getting a lot better, because the older he got, I started researching deeply into all of the labels that they tell you is associated with vaccine injury, right? Like, they'll say autism and ADHD and all these learning things. And I was always from the beginning like, bullshit, like none of that will happen with my son. Zero. And I would pray over him and I would anoint him, and my husband would look at me like I was crazy. And I would go, I don't care whether you think it's working or not. Like, I pray over him, and it made me feel better. And I knew that it was working. I knew that it was. I knew it was. And so, detoxes and all sorts of things. And it really did help him a lot. And we changed our diet drastically. We predominantly eat pasture-raised organic food. And my husband's the only one that works. And we live in LA County now. And when people go, he must make so much. No, we make sacrifices. I don't get my nails done. I don't get my hair done. I don't have fake eyelashes. There's nothing fake. there's nothing. It's all real.
What you see and what you get is the real Libby, right?
We just moved into an apartment. This is all free. This couch was sitting somewhere and they found it and bought it here, and it's clean. That's free. That was the TV. Was like, we didn't pay for anything because we can't afford it. I don't make money doing anything that I do online, like zero. For a little while, I had a shop and like a Shopify, and I had a few logos that I put onto shirts and different things like that, because I'm actually, one of my big passions is art. I love painting. I love drawing. I'm an artist, but I don't get much time to paint. So you probably didn't see that. Maybe you saw a little bit of art stuff when you researched into me.
I saw it on Etsy, I think, right?
I had an Etsy for a little bit. I do have an Instagram art page, but I don't even advertise it on my main page anymore at all, because most people don't care to buy art. So
not yet.
I've had a few people that have. That's why I had the Shopify, was because I figured maybe on clothing, you know, and then I wanted to help people wake up. So like the shirt I'm wearing was one of the last items I had in my shop, because I may reopen it, but I want to make the prices lower if I reopen it, so that people can actually afford it, because no one wants to really pay $20 for a shirt. But trying to get a $20 shirt made in America with American stuff, like if you want to keep it in your country, right, is ridiculous. So, but this, I'll show it to you. You don't have to put this up later, but this is, can you see the shirt?
Yeah, like 2045. Look it up. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow human, look it up.
So I have this made as like a shirt. I have one that says anti-cyborg army, like has hashtag anti-cyborg army. My daughter is an artist. She helped me make the design of the little robot face. I don't remember how I got into talking about any of that anyways, but that's okay. You asked me about my medical stuff. I mean, I started researching into my own health because of the injury I had in, when was it? It was June 21st of 2018. So I was at an all-day like heavy metal concert with my oldest daughter at the time. She was super into heavy metal. My oldest one, her name's Hannah.
No, what band?
Which band? It was just a heavy metal like festival, like all-day festival. And I don't remember which band it was that she loved that was playing at night, but there was one particular band that she was completely infatuated with at the time. And they were playing in the evening. And long story short, she wanted to be up front and center. So, I mean, at 14, I would have wanted the same thing, you know? And I tried to warn her, this is going to be a mosh pit and that's dangerous. And we should stay back here. Right. And I'm short. I'm 5 foot. So people don't, you know, get an idea of my, like, I'm short. People sometimes think I'm tall, and I'm like, I don't know why you think that, but I'm 5 foot. She's tall. She's way taller than me now. And even at the time I went, okay, I'll go in with you. And I thought like I could shield her. The girl's taller than me and she's in front of me, but still I'm the mom and I wanted to be there. And long story short, there was a girl that was crowd surfing, and I saw her from the corner of my eye, and she got thrown and landed on top of my head. And I lost consciousness for, you know, briefly. Everybody was packed. We were all sardined in. You know what mosh pits are like. But that impact of a person falling, you're like a nail. It's like a hammer. You're like a nail. So the damage that it did to my spine started to show up after like 2-3 months. So around September, I started having problems like urinating. Like I started peeing every 5 minutes, and it was awful. And I started having symptoms that looked to the doctors like I had a really bad kidney infection. So they started treating me for that. Then it was a bladder infection. Then it was maybe you have IC. Then it was, and the whole time I'm like, it feels like nerve pain. It feels like nerve pain. And I knew what nerve pain felt like because I had had shingles, like how, you know, 10 years or whatever, or prior. And shingles is a nerve. It attacks your nervous system. So that was, you know, but then you could get into disease and all that stuff. And I've learned so much since about disease and about the body, but God had to take that time frame for me. And that's how I learned. I learned about the mind-body connection, the stomach, the gut. I mean, I was on so many meds. I was on like 3 or 4 different psychiatric meds for bipolar, for depression, for anxiety, for insomnia, for your stomach, take this, for the pain, take this, for the nerve, take this, I was on so many, and it was just a slow progression because it doesn't happen all at once. It started in like 2015, and it just, now it's this, so
stacked up and stacked up.
Now it's then you add another pill. Well, now that's a side effect, so we'll give you this and it'll help with that side effect.
Right.
And then we'll give you this, and before you know it, I'm at the pharmacy, and I had like just a moment one day where I went to go pick up some medicine, and it was around the same time that happened with my son. And I was like, I had a bag of medicine, like drugs that they told me was medicine, drugs. It was like 10 bottles. And I looked at it and just thought, the fuck am I taking all this for? Like, what the hell is wrong with me? Am I dying? Like, what happened? I hate taking pills. How did this happen? And to the point where I don't even take vitamins, you know, but so that was how it started. And I went through, I mean, I didn't listen to them. I just stopped listening. I just was like, I never listened to authority to begin with. Like, I dropped out of high school at 16 because I couldn't stand how stupid the teachers were and control. They were so power hungry. Like, very few teachers were actual true teachers. They were mostly impatient, angry, controlling, power hungry adults that wanted to make me feel stupid, and because I was younger. So I don't know. I think because I just asked a lot of questions, and I didn't feel like I could trust the doctors anymore. I got all my medical records from every specialist I had gone to, from neurologists to, I had like nerve tests done. I had so much that was done to me, to my body, by medical professionals wanting to help me, that made me sicker, that when I got to the root of it and found out that it was not IC, it was prudental neuralgia. It was bilateral prudental neuralgia. Both my prudental nerves were so severely damaged that there was no way that any nerve blocks they were doing were going to fix it. And I knew that once I realized what was actually had happened to my body, I thought I went to my therapist at the time. He passed away like a month ago. But I went to my therapist at the time, and I was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to make this go away. Like, I don't know how to make the pain stop. And when I say chronic pain, so everyone has prudental nerves, everybody. And the prudental nerves exit the S2 to S4 area of your spine, your sacral spine at the bottom. They wrap around your hips, then they branch off. The one nerve branches off to 3 branches that goes to your anus, your perineum, and your clitoris or your penis. And either you will experience pleasure or no sensations, or you'll have just bodily functions because of those nerves. Or if they're damaged, you feel electrical, stinging, burning, sharp pain, just like lightning bolts out of nowhere. And that's what I was living with while they were telling me it was my bladder. So I had PN for about 3 years. The way I cured it was, and I did cure it, was I did pelvic floor physical therapy twice a week for like 2 years. I did a lot of therapy with my husband, with my therapist. My husband and I went through some things we had to deal with. And I really learned a lot about the mind-body connection and about how the nervous system works. I started to learn about the germ theory versus the terrain theory, and really learned about even deeper into the human body, which made more sense to me. So ultimately what I ended up doing was listening to my therapist. And I did something that it's very unconventional. A lot of people don't want to even talk about this particular field, but I started researching psychedelics, primarily psilocybin, and the effects of psilocybin on your nervous system, on your brain, on your mood. and found all sorts of studies. Now people know about MAPS and things like that. And psilocybin's been legalized in a lot of states, including California too, for medicinal purposes. But this is all part of researching, because I feel like if we want to really know the truth, it's out there. It's just up to us to find it. People get very entitled and want you to just prove things to them instead of them going and just learning it on their own. And you can only learn so much from somebody else. You have to, learn on your own.
You have to do it your own. Exactly.
And doing psilocybin myself with God for about I had like a 6-7 hour journey one Friday, and I woke up and, came back. And ever since then, I haven't had that pain. Like, that pain's been gone. So there's no way for me to describe that to the doctors other than to tell them, this is what I did. I healed my nervous system because you guys couldn't do it. So God and I took care of it. Like, you couldn't do it. I mean, really. And so I feel like there's a whole level of truth in things that 2045 isn't something that I personally feel like we're going to stop. I don't feel like we're going to stop it. I don't feel like it really can be stopped. I personally feel like it's part of Bible prophecy, and so it's gonna have to happen. I feel like humans are literally on the brink of I wouldn't necessarily say extermination yet. That's not it. It's, if you read the Bible and you read Revelation and you know that this has to happen. I guess for me, the difference was that going to the forest and trying to be self-sufficient and do all that because of this, like, in spite of it, part of me felt like I'm missing the actual purpose of being alive and being given the gift of life, which is to enjoy as much as you can every day that you are here with people, hopefully, that you have around you that you care about, that care about you, and try to tell somebody about Jesus. I mean, I feel like that's what 2045 is for me. Everything else that I've seen that I've connected to it, from bricks to the financial system to the pedophilia to all of it for me all leads to one event eventually taking place, which will be, the eventual ending war. You know what I could leave you with? One of the things that I could tell people that I would suggest, I don't really watch a lot of TV. I really, really, really don't. I don't watch a lot of videos. People send me tons of videos. I rarely watch any of them. I don't really have the time to, and I don't have the eyesight strength to. I have to be really careful what I spend my eyesight on. Like, literally, I cannot sit and stare at a blue screen phone like I used to be able to do with research. So even with researching, when people ask me, like, you can make this a business, I can't stare at a screen all day. So I have to limit it. So I have to go about it in a different way, which for me is more intuitive. If I feel like there's something off in the force, I will question what it could be. And then I will go specifically look for that thing. And if it's there, it will present itself to me without me searching. I don't spend hours upon hours upon hours. My day starts at like 5 a.m. I'll spend an hour waking up. I'll spend half an hour seeing what's out there, what's going on. If there's something prevalent enough that I feel like people ought to know about, I'll try and throw something together if I can. But in the midst of it, I'm trying to homeschool a kid and be a mom, and things. So I can't always do it the way that I like to.
That's already a full-time job. But where I want to go to is, I saw on your Instagram page, Isaiah 6:8. Also, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Then I said, "Here I am, send me." And I think that's a nice wraparound about your journey that you have been through, all the stuff that you've been through, and that you had something like, okay, now I'm awake. Now I see things that other people can't see. Let me be the messenger for them.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
That was this. Thank you. That was not a scripture that I picked.
Oh,
I didn't even know that scripture was until, no, it was in my head when I woke up in the hospital in the emergency room. You know, like within a day or two, there were certain things that were in my head. My son's birthday is May 22nd. That happened May 19th. So, you know, I remember my son, when the ambulance and the paramedics were taking me to the hospital, like I vaguely remember him coming to say bye and gave me a kiss and told the paramedic, I'm going to be 5 in 2 days. You know, it was really, really, really hard to listen to him and to know that he must be really scared. Like, here's my son telling the paramedics, I'm going to be 5 in 2 days, so you make sure you bring my mommy back home. And that was one of the things I remember, other than my husband singing to me when the paramedics were there, because I knew something bad happened, like it's some part of my brain, but I didn't know what happened.
You were just
And
shut
it
down?
wasn't until, well, so leading up to it, thank God you're editing all this, leading up to May 19th of 2022, I mentioned they told me I had long haul COVID, but that's not what it was. So I had bilateral pneumonia, and it was very difficult for me to breathe for months. Like I was on antibiotics and steroids, and I tried to do everything their way because everything I was doing wasn't working, and I didn't know what was going on. And so once I figured out that it was radiation poisoning from the 5G tower that was switched on the same month I started getting sick and having symptoms, I knew it's radiation poisoning, it's EMF poisoning. That's what I'm experiencing. It affects the same parts of the system of the body as pneumonia. It's the same thing, same symptoms as pneumonia. And so once I proved all that, you know, I knew it, but I felt like I have to prove this to other people, like my husband, because he doesn't believe me. So I had to do that. So the first, you know, there's like a highlight reel that says 5G plus 6G, and you'll see I look very different because I have long hair and stuff. And I'm explaining as I'm putting it together, like, this is, you know, like, I don't believe this is an innocent thing anymore at all. Like, this thing is making me sick. I've just proved it. Right now, there's more than enough proof. Everyone, you know, almost everyone knows. I feel like even people who may not believe that COVID was a lie know that those things shouldn't be up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for me, what ended up happening was I ended up taking Xanax because I just couldn't do it anymore. I feel like at that point in time in my life, I was like a towel that you wring out. I don't know if that makes like that. I just kind of gave up. I was so depressed because I missed my daughters and our family and our friends that we had so much. And I was so lonely and I felt so isolated because even though I was going to all these freedom movements and speaking and, you know, yelling and fighting and everything, like, I wasn't making any progress anywhere. There was nothing that was actually changing. We would go and we would spend all this time and all this effort and all this energy. And then a day or two would pass and it would be like, oh, they just passed this bill under the table. Awesome. Like, why did I spend my whole day over there? You know, and that would happen over and over and over and over. And finally, I think I just got to a place between all of that and things with my kids and my family and stuff, and my health. I think I just got to a place where when I met this particular doctor who was such a liar, really, I want to sue him, but I need help to sue him because he put me on Xanax and wanted to keep me on it. And when I wanted to get off of it, he refused to give me a taper dose and wanted to keep me on a maintenance dose. And that's not how you properly get off of Xanax. Any benzodiazepine, you have to be weaned off gradually, slowly, especially if you are someone like I am who's already had an encounter with Xanax in the past with benzos and had a seizure. And I did in 2009 in May, and for other, you know, reasons and things. But the way I saw it and the way that it happened, like what I experienced and the truth were two completely different things that I didn't even know until later. It was in hindsight that I could look back and be like, he totally manipulated me to get me to believe that this was the answer, even though I was like, no. And my husband's like, this is a bad idea. But I did it anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also how the devil works and how the devil plays with you. He knows what your weakness is and where he can get to you. And for me, he knew that it was anxiety. He knew that I can only handle, I feel like, well, no, I felt at the time like I could only handle so much and it wouldn't stop. Like I couldn't see the end of when the anxiety and the panic attacks would stop so I could just live. And ultimately taking the Xanax was what led me to have the seizure, because when I wanted to stop taking it, he refused to give me the correct dosage or tried to, and I was too zonked out to understand or whatever. I just stopped. All I knew was I have to just stop. I gotta just stop. And I knew that I would be at high risk for having a seizure. So did my husband. He tried to help that not happen. But ultimately that night I was in the restroom peeing, and I was looking down at my phone, and my daughter was sending me some text messages that were very upsetting and unnerving. And when you're very anxious, your heart rate will increase. And sometimes you can feel it pounding. And for me, I start pounding chest and sweating, and I'm confused and I'm shaking. And like, I look like I'm about to have a heart attack. Like there's a video, a quick few seconds. And the only reason I ended up putting this on my Instagram is because I did not intend to have a panic attack when I had the phone recording. Right. I put my phone out there to record me putting my contacts in, because there's these contacts I used to wear for my eyes that I don't have anymore, but they were the way I was able to see like the best, was with these large, gigantic contacts. They're hard contacts called scleral lenses. So I was going to put my contacts in, but I went to the bathroom, and as I set the whole thing up to do it, I started having a panic attack. I started getting anxious. It was already recording.
Right,
so
right. I saw that video.
As I sat down, I forgot about it because I'm having a panic attack. So now the kid's yelling and whatever, and my husband's trying to deal with him, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm thinking about who knows, like my day, right? And I was going to go speak, I think, that day again or something, and started having a panic attack. And anyways, I took a few seconds of that. I ended up taking a few seconds of that, and I put it up on Instagram because I felt like so far people have just seen this side of me. They saw the shit I went through with my health. They saw how I fought to figure out what was wrong with me. I was on the bed. I was bedridden. I cried. I screamed. I figured it out, right? Got up, started walking. I hiked. I'm back to life. Then the world shuts down. Holy shit. Now I went back into the hole, and now I'm depressed again. Like, this is what people saw out here. Right. But no one had seen how it was actually affecting me in here. So people could throw around strong. You're strong. You're so strong. You're so strong. But I feel like I could speak for most women when I say that an adult woman who you could look at and say, she's so strong, that means that that woman has been through some fucking shit, that she's survived. That's why she's strong. And I promise you, most women, and I could at least speak for myself, I would trade all of that strength for some fucking peace and safety in a heartbeat. Because what I went through to be strong and resilient cost me a lot. And the price I paid is now fighting anxiety and panic and being debilitated like I was in the bathroom in that video, you know? And so for me, going through that and having all that happen, and that was the reason I had the heart attack. And ultimately that was what triggered it. Was I was so upset, and I was having such severe anxiety because of what I was reading, because my coping skills went out the fucking window, that my body in its sad state, like I have to, like, I'm so sorry I did that to you, was trying to just keep me alive. And my body, my nervous system couldn't do it anymore. So when they say, you know, for me, the heart attack I experienced was because my heart was already broken. It had been broken for years. So of course I had a heart attack. I was heartbroken. It
Right.
makes perfect sense to me. They could try to all the science in the world, but I was heartbroken and sad, and that's why I had a heart attack. And that heart attack triggered the seizure. And when the paramedics got there and took me to the emergency room, from the paperwork that I, you know, got and stuff, they gave me a drug called Keppra 5 times to stop my heart. It slows your heart down almost to a stop, and it can stop it if they need to, so that they could prevent me from having another heart attack because I was so anxious. So every time they would try to, you know, bring me back, I would wake and I would go into like a shock that I was awake. And then they would try to tell me to, I would hear them like, you need to try to relax now. And I would try to relax, but I don't know anyone who's had a panic attack, an anxiety attack that you can yell at or talk to and say, relax. And they're just going from this to, I'm good now. Like that doesn't happen to
No, it
anybody.
doesn't happen.
So there was no difference in the ambulance, you know. But for me, every time they, I guess, stopped my heart, I wasn't here. I wasn't asleep. I was awake. I was just in paradise. I wasn't here. I
Right.
wasn't in heaven. Heaven is behind gates. That's not
Yeah,
heaven
yeah, yeah. You
where I
were
was.
just in the middle, just like
I was outside of heaven in the garden. Like I have to be very specific about that, I guess, because I was not going to enter heaven that night had I stayed dead. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. Was I a believer? Yes. I believed in Jesus 100%. Had I been living my life that way to that point, I wasn't. And I've talked to people that are Christians since then that have been like, well, then you're saying that you weren't really saved. No, what I'm saying is that for me personally, that particular night, I know that I would not have gained, I wasn't done here. I could not have gotten into heaven. I wasn't done. God was angry that I was there to begin with because I had asked to be there. I wanted to die. I hated being alive and missing my daughters and fighting and being strong and figuring everything out. And no, I was exhausted. I was like a towel that was wrung out. I couldn't do it anymore.
What
You
was
know, and so
what's the feeling like if you are in a game and you have to put up your best all the time, and you're just like, oh man, I'm so fed up right now. Coach, take me out for a second. That you had this moment. Well, I felt similar. That I had that moment, just like, oh man, just put me on hold for a second, and it went on hold, but it was this limbo
yeah,
effect, just like I'm still in the game because I'm on the side, and I'm on a team, and I'm struggling to do the things I have to do. But for now, just like I have this resting point, and I got a divine download or a reset or whatever you're going to call it. And okay, you see that there is the exit of the field. You're not going there. You're not going into the game either, but you have to sit down on the bench for a sec,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden the game is over, and you go with the same team. You go to the what's it called? After the game, you go to the wardrobe.
after party.
Yeah, no,
Oh, the word, yeah,
no,
yeah.
not the
Locker
party
room,
yet.
yeah.
Not yet the party.
The
That
locker,
that comes
room,
after you
yeah, yeah.
recover.
No,
The
right,
party
right,
comes
yeah.
after you recover. But well, you have the dog out, and you go to the showers, right? So you have
Right.
this, or you be in the game, you feel stuck, you get on the side, you go to the dugout, you have some rest, and all of a sudden the game is over. Well, life, right? But you go to the showers, just like, okay, well, what's now? What's the plan now? See you next week. Okay, and then you going your life path again. And what I want to touch based on, because that was just metaphorically for me, you also did some great things about drug dependence and drug addiction, because there's a great big difference between them two. And because you were talking a lot of
Yes.
the medical drugs that you're have experience in your body and in your mind, of course, because it's physical and
The pharmaceuticals?
yes, and of course,
You mean yes, that's what
yeah. Let's touch base on that, because I think it's a good segue about the stuff that you had to deal with, which was wrongly diagnosed, but you get pumped in so much stuff, and then you eventually get into the psychedelics, which is of course another drug. But please tell me a little bit more about what your take is on the drug dependence and the drug addiction.
So for me personally, right, since you're asking me, obviously, opinions changed after I had the experience with the psychedelics that I did with psilocybin for medical reasons. And I'll try to explain to you why. So, oh, give me 1 second. Something's delivered. I just need to.
Yeah. I'm gonna get some water fast.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, sorry.
I forgot to put the water on my desk, so.
Oh, okay. So where was I? Drug addiction versus drug dependence.
Right.
So this is the experience that I personally have had with drug addiction and drug dependence. So I was a member of, I've never said this out loud in public before, but it's time, I think. So I was, for a short period of time, 11 years and 11 months. So weird how it ended up being 11 years and 11 months. I didn't plan that. But I was sober for 11 years and 11 months for a period of time in my life. This was several years ago, was when that period of sobriety ended. And that period of sobriety began for me because I went through a period of time prior in my 20s where I was very addicted to drugs. The drugs I was primarily addicted to were alcohol and benzos. I smoked weed, but I don't feel like weed is a drug.
Nope.
Then I did maybe, but now I don't. Now I also don't feel like psilocybin is a drug. I feel like drugs come in bottles with childproof lids and a label that makes you feel like it's medicine. And then the actual medicine grows out of the ground and they tell you it's a drug.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my personal opinion currently on drugs and medicine. But at the time in my 20s, I came from a very abusive, traumatized childhood. And I was always seeking how to self-medicate and how to feel okay. And drugs, actual drugs like alcohol and things like benzos and painkillers numbed me because I did not know how to deal with this overactive, hypervigilant nervous system that I had and what it was doing and how it was controlling my life, because it was. My nervous system was controlling my life. And to some degree, it still does in some ways, but I try not to let it take me down that path with anxiety and panic and fear. And I try to let it take me more into comfort and calmness and peace. But that only happens when I stay in God. As soon as I start thinking about myself and everything in the world, I go here, just like everyone else.
Right.
So for me at the time in my 20s, and as a teenager, I left home when I was very young. I was 16. I was on my own. I was working for the most part and with my ex, who, long story short, was a covert narcissist like my dad. It figures that's just kind of what happens when you start to study family systems and order of birth and all sorts of different things. But long story short, I spent the time that I was sober really learning about myself and what I liked and what I didn't like and who I was and who I wasn't and things like that. And ultimately, the reason my sobriety ended was because I no longer had the support system that existed for me previously because of COVID. COVID took away everything that was helpful. There was a period of time where we struggled to even be able to walk around the block, take a hike. They shut the beaches down out here at one point, and I remember driving to go to the beach, right? Because these were all tools, coping mechanisms,
Right.
that would help, soothe, comfort, right? And they had blocked off the beach, the actual Pacific Coast Highway, like 100 miles of Pacific Coast Highway was gated in 2020 in the summer. And when I went to the beach, because I'm a beach bum, I love the ocean, I'm a mermaid, I would like to just live in the ocean. And so that would be great in the sun. Something snapped in me when I saw a bunch of people climbing a fence and trying to push it down. And I just knew they're trying to keep us off the beach. And I pulled over and had to get, involved in it and stuff. I bring that up because all of the trauma and all of the just kind of coping mechanisms that I feel like a lot of us had, that I had, were taken away. And so I was left very, very, very isolated. And it was in a period of time for me where I was also at the same period of time, right around 2020, 2019 was when I stopped being stuck in the bed and I was able to get out and start walking again and stuff. But the period of time that I had when I was, using drugs and alcohol, I feel like a lot of people do this not so much because they're addicts, truly, but for me, I was reacting out of a very trauma response place. So my way of self-medicating was with drugs and alcohol. Once that was removed, I still had all the underlying stuff here that I hadn't dealt with, that the coping mechanism for a long time was alcohol and drugs. And that was where the addiction for me was
Right.
not knowing how to sit and just have a feeling and just watch it, like, and not react to it and go, oh, here comes fear. Here it comes. Oh, now it's taken me and I feel like I'm chilling. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you really sit there and you don't have anything to distract you and take you out of how you're feeling, you can only go in. There's nowhere else to go other than in. And when you're forced to go in, you can either go up or down. For me, I went down fast and hard. And because I fell, like, in a sense, spiritually, I feel like so hard. I feel like God used it at that time when I was in my late 20s. I was getting divorced from my ex-husband. I had just met my current husband. I was on my own for the first time with my daughters in my own place. And it was a great period of time for me because I was able to just feel. I went from not feeling anything, uncomfortable or comfortable. No, there was no real happiness when you're using. You think there is, but there really isn't. It's fake, right? Because you created it with the alcohol or the drugs or whatever. So it's not genuine. It's not authentic. It's not the truth. And so for a long time, because I wasn't living in my truth, literally, I wasn't living in my truth. Everything ended up being a lie. And it really, when people say, I feel like that things seep into your life, they kind of trickle here and there. When I wasn't looking for the truth, I was doing the opposite. I was avoiding it as hard as I possibly could because it was too painful and I didn't want to accept it and look at it. So the only way I could exist in the world was to cover up the truth with drugs and alcohol. That's for me where the addiction came in. Once that was removed, I was able to sit there and just go, well, I do believe in God. What's God? God for me is Jesus. What does that mean? I mean, the majority of my life, it's footprints in the sand. It's that poem where I'm being carried by God because it's so damn difficult to just walk. But that's a horrible existence in a lot of ways because I want to be able to walk side by God. I don't want to always be carried. Like, it's more of a, I don't know, analogy in my mind where I think of like a baby being carried because they can't even comfort themselves, and make the conscious decision to even reach for God, let's say. Whereas as an adult, I can say, I need God and hold his hand instead of you're always carrying me because I'm so human.
Yeah,
Does
yeah,
that, you know what
right.
I mean? So I got to a point where um, I feel like after I had that injury in 2018, and I was once again kind of stuck with how I was feeling, and the physical pain was so intense that I, chose to start taking painkillers. Um, I started to see how the painkillers were taking over my thoughts and my feelings again, and how I wasn't able to have real feelings and thoughts because it was too uncomfortable because of the physical pain. They feed off of each other. So when you have physical pain, you have mental pain. When you have
Hmm.
mental pain, you'll have physical pain. They feed
Right.
off each other because of the mind body connection.
Hmm.
So that's where, when I had certain, role models back then that I would look to that would tell me this is all in your head, I would get so mad. There's nothing more that you could say more infuriating to a person in chronic physical pain than it's all in your head, because it makes them feel like they're crazy. But that's not what they were saying to me. And that's not what I'm saying to somebody else who's having chronic pain. What I'm saying is, it's in your head, meaning it's in your brain, it's in your mind, it's in your soul.
Hmm.
That's what's causing your physical pain. And because you're ignoring it, it's going to persist. Because you can't, what you resist persists. I
Hmm.
like that little saying because I feel like that's very true for me. So, I mean, I ended up making the decision to get off of all of the pharmaceuticals that I was on in 2018 and 19. And I'm glad I did, because when 2020 came around, I was really glad that I wasn't addicted to the pharmaceuticals that they told me I had to take
Uh-huh.
to help me sleep or to help me, with my hormones even, or whatever. Um, Psilocybin, I feel like, is one of those ancient medicines that was frowned upon because you it opened up this part of my brain for me where I realized just how powerful my mind actually is.
Mm.
And once I felt it and I saw it for myself, I was almost afraid of that much power that I could have over my own body and my own life.
Hmm.
Because when you come from a place of such trauma, you never felt that kind of power. You felt
Right.
weak. So you had to always fight to feel some strength because you were so weak, because you were being beaten verbally, physically. So, you know what I mean? So, um, I don't know if that has made sense. I feel like there's people that are addicted to, insulin, but that's not an addiction. It's a dependence. They need to take the insulin because their body's not producing it on its own, right? But maybe that's also because something else happened in their body that stopped that system from
Hmm.
creating that. And they don't know what it is because it has something to do on an emotional level. But to get so deep into illnesses or what causes it or how to heal it is, I feel like it's still a mystery to everybody. And doctors, whether they be modern medicine or shamans
Hmm.
or holistic or naturopaths or biblical, healers, or everyone's just trying to kind of figure it out so that they can feel better.
I
And
think that's the
I
point.
think sometimes, but I think sometimes for me, I just get to a place where I'm like, I'm probably not supposed to feel better.
Hmm.
Because if I was supposed to feel better, I probably would. So maybe it's not about feeling better right now. Maybe it's about feeling whatever it is, not better until it's better for a minute. Like,
It's
your
it's
feelings are
it.
constantly going to change. It's not, it's hard for me because I know that, but that's not what drives. It's weird. It's like it's an intuition, but it's not a feeling that constantly drives me, if that makes sense. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, I
I don't know
think
how to
there's
explain
always
it.
a
Sometimes I
duality.
try.
There's always a duality, and I think that you point out very good that addiction is if you can do your normal things without substances, whatever it is, coffee, cigarettes,
Mm,
alcohol. Even if you find it in a grocery store, and when the government or the FDA approves it, be very careful how
for
much you
sure.
use and when you use it, because they don't want you to use the good stuff, which is most of the time illegal, right?
Right.
The things that we see is that a lot of people that go off from one addiction, they got a substitute for something else, right? So you have these
Right.
people that are stopping with, for example, stopping with cigarettes. Well, what they do is they hang around like 4 or 5 days in a week in the gym. That's an addiction too. You know, to
Right.
work out every time is an addiction too. To meditate every single time when you feel stress could be an addiction too. There's so many things that we can be addicted to. And we're living in a system where we have to, and I talk about addiction and dependent is something else, but uh, we are humans, so we probably need some addiction for ourselves to fit into the system. That's why they say in a grocery store, oh, you can have this. You want to buy cigarettes, they're expensive, you can have them. You want to have some
Yeah.
alcohol, you have them. You have a big alcohol problem in every, well, probably not the Arabic states or countries, but in all the other parts of the world where there's poverty, stress, dysfunctional politics and stuff like that, alcohol comes up, and I think it's one of the main causes of death. And it's not like when you
Alcohol for
drink a
sure,
beer,
or
then
alcohol related and drug related crimes, and yeah, for
exactly.
sure.
Exactly. And we have to be very careful about all these things. And just like you said, if you are alone, all one, you go dig into yourself in your own system. And you probably in this world, you have to figure out yourself what could heal me? What do I have? What I'm diagnosed with? Is that the real truth, first of all? Because you're a very
Mhm.
living example that if you're misdiagnosed, that there could be some really stuff going on that they pump into your body that isn't good at all. But you have to be very aware as a human, just like, okay, what's gonna help me? What do I do now that probably fucked me up in the past? It could be food, it could be the water, it could be the environment, just like you pointed out, like 5G, 6G, whatever towers they pulled
Mhm.
up when we all were locked down. You know, I
Yeah.
saw, because I traveled a lot, I saw some of these these 5G towers once in a while. Then we had the shutdown, lockdown. Then I went back to the road again, just like, what the? I can't point out how much stress and what's the intention that these things are there. And you said it
Yeah.
yourself, when they turned the switch on, my body was feeling ill.
Mhm.
And we have to, and I think that's coming back to 2045 when they want to put up this nanotech AI human something Neuralink human being. I think there's a way to fight this, and you need eyes to see as a human, but they want cameras to see how we react. So if we shut down cameras, then they can't see. That's first of all, that's a limp for them, right? The other thing could be uh, the communication lines that they have right now, like the 5G. If that's gonna mess us up as a human, and we take that down or we shut that down in what way, whatever. I'm not saying that we have to, but just to get some thoughts, right?
We do have to. I mean, I personally feel like that the only way that we could really fight back against what they are creating, what they're putting in place right now, is to remove the power supply. Like, think
Exactly.
back to the power supply. Like, think back to all the, I don't watch horror movies or anything. Sci-fi, I like sci-fi a lot, but what I've learned for myself, I feel like everything that was science fiction, um, like they even messed with the words because
Hmm.
fiction means that it's not true, and nonfiction means it's true. Just that switch alone in the words has always messed with me.
Hmm.
Why I always thought I would always get confused between fiction and nonfiction because I always felt like fiction is true, nonfiction is not true because of the way they
Right.
use the word nonfiction, right? Not true.
Uh-huh.
if fiction means truth, how could non-fiction be truth? Like, I'm literally teaching my son right now prefixes in English of words, right? Dis, un, re, prefixes, right? Like, okay, unravel. So you're undoing something, right? What's the other word that I could think of? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. The words alone, you know what I mean? I feel like fiction has always meant the truth, just like I felt like it did. Nonfiction means non-true, just like I always felt like it did. I understand that in the English language, the word fiction means true. I get it. And how it's true, that would mean it's not true.
Wait,
So
you're
it's
lagging
weird
a
little
little bit,
things like
Libby.
that I catch and pick up on.
You lag a little bit, yeah.
What was that?
You'll lag a little bit.
Yeah,
So
it's probably been a little while. I mean, I think we're probably almost done.
Okay.
But I would say that it's I feel like what they do is try to just confuse you as much as possible so that you stay stuck in it. Because if everybody could break free of the matrix, if it was that easy to do, to get away from technology, to get away from the towers, from the EMF, from the chemtrails, from the polluted water, everybody would do it. It's not easy, and they make it that way on purpose, because that means you need to be able to create and provide for every single thing that you want to break away from, like a monthly payment, right? So if there's gas, you're going to have to request your own, figure out how to get your own gas, how to get your own water, your own, right, everything. I think it's a lot easier to say it and maybe even to make some attempts than to actually do it, because there's a lot of knowledge that you need to have, and you need to have the resources, and the resources are very expensive, as we came to find out. So for me, it's you know, when I think of like, what can I do, right? I can have faith, first and foremost, for me, that I'm going to be okay regardless of what happens, because I believe that this life is temporary. So whatever they do to this body in this life doesn't ultimately matter, because this is not the end of Libby on this earth. So it's not the end of Rob. You know what I mean? This isn't the end.
It's just a
this
vessel.
is just the place that we're in right now until we move on to the permanent place afterwards. So for me, the fight changed after May 19th of 2022, because I came back feeling like I need to share all this with everybody, because that's what God told me to do. And I need to tell them that the solution is to be self-sufficient in like small little communities where you're helping each other, right? Because that's the solution. But how can I can't say that and not do it myself. So that was where, for us, and because of circumstances, the way that things happened, you know, he couldn't stay home and take care of me and nurse me back to health and provide for our family. It had to be one or the other. So we had to move into the RV, you know what I mean? Things like that. Now I feel like it's something that we tried to do, and it's not that we failed, it's that we weren't as equipped as we needed to be in order for it to be successful. And then other things happened in life. My father's very sick. He has dementia. It's very serious. And so we had to come back, because on top of everything else, I just started to feel like, what's the purpose of fighting everything and wanting to create this self-sufficient homestead if I don't get to share it with my daughters, with my family, if I don't get to go to the beach, and you know, all these things. And so when people ask me like, well, what's the solution? What are we going to do? What can we do? You can pray. You can have faith that you're going to be okay, and not let what is going on in the world affect you to the point that you're frozen, or that you are making decisions purely based out of fear, right? That you are making calculated, intentional, very intentional choices, and that you're giving yourself, I think this is the biggest part for me, that you're giving yourself the space to know that you're only human. You can only do so much. Even if you unlock your mind, even if you, defund and detach and whatever, you're still human. You're going to need other humans, period.
Right.
End of story. You're going to
That's
need
the
other
energy,
humans.
right?
And hopefully you have humans around you that you can trust, that you can rely on, that won't shoot you in the back when there's one can of food left and you have to share it. Like serious things like that, when people are like, I'm just, fuck them, they're just not going to win. What's your plan? Like, let's
exactly.
have a conversation. How are you going to stop it?
Is it something
just because.
Is it something like what you want to point out, especially with Agenda 2045? Just be prepared. There's a time now that we
be prepared and don't be tricked.
Fighting against such a big tech or government, it's not going to hold up, especially with the small group that we're in right now, with people that are awake or whatever. But you can do that by, be truthful to yourself and the loved ones, and build a community eventually if you can, and be prepared of that what's coming. So, for example, I got this water filter or Berkey. I can get some water out of a creek, filter it, and it's 100% good drinkable water. I don't need any electricity to do that. And I know that you struggled with when you had your mobile home. There was a bloody storm that causes a lot of stress and a lot of,
yes,
you couldn't live there anymore, right? So Black Hawk helicopter flew over just, because it was something like, what the, maybe you should make a movie about all your experiences. But my question is this, Libby, do you think that the experiences you went through are made you the spiritual warrior that you are now, that you are capable of pointing out the things that you want to point out now?
For sure. I'm not that smart. Like I'm not, I'm not like, it's not, I don't, I feel like the most realistic and the most tangible solution, and I know that a lot of people don't like this, and I get it, like they get angry, but I truly feel 100% that the best solution for every human who wants to remain human is to read the Bible. Read your Bible. Just read the Bible. Read the Bible. Because there's nothing that we can do to stop anything that's biblical. That's not our job. That's not my job. For a long time, I felt like it was. And I felt like fighting and wearing black and the yellow star and being like, I don't comply. No, is enough. Like that's enough. Like I'm fighting. But it's really not, because I'm not fighting I'm not fighting Newsom. It looks like it, right? I'm not really fighting my husband or my kids or the liberal down the street that hates me because I don't know, I'm Jewish or whatever. Like that's not what I'm fighting. I'm literally fighting evil, demonic principalities that are not in this realm. If people could see, if you could imagine for a second that there's a movie, right, playing. And I'm not saying life is a movie. I'm really not. I don't feel like life is a movie. I know people say like it's not. I feel like this is the real thing in terms of how do you want to live your life? There was a period of time where I was very depressed. I was very angry, and I very much felt like I was entitled to be angry and to fight the way I was, right? Now I feel like the only right that I actually have, truly, is to tell you that the only reason I'm actually alive is because God chose to send me back here, not allow me to stay dead because I wasn't done with the job, the mission, the purpose of my existence in this realm. So when I speak, And I try to share things with people and explain things, right? Sometimes I just share stuff like today. There'll be like a post that you'll see, and it's just stuff to scroll through and look at. If I'm trying to share something and explain it, it's because I felt like I was told this is what you need to do. It wasn't like out of Libby's brain and so I think where people oftentimes start to struggle is when they're trying to gain some kind of notoriety or fame or make money,
Right.
or they
Right.
stop to actually, remember that your fight isn't even here to begin with. It's not. So when I stop and really remember that part of does it really matter if I can filter water, or if I have chickens, or if I have eggs, or if I have God told me that he feeds the birds in the air and I'm going to be fed too. Doesn't mean I have to be ignorant and stupid and just, but it means I should have enough faith to know that I will be taken care of. I don't have to react out of fear and do things and live my life in a way where I'm not waking up and going to sleep happy and content, at least. Like, I don't chase happiness, but I do want to be content. I do want to have peace. And, I feel like I'd rather chase peace and just being content than happiness.
All the other stuff.
Because that goes away.
Yeah, exactly.
Money goes away too. I mean, I know I have to get going in a bit, but I'm glad we got to talk. I feel like we covered a ton of stuff.
Yeah, you did. You're great, man. Great. And I'm very lucky to talk to you because you're a very strong woman, and all the things that you've been through. Hopefully we can also help people to get noticed about all the stuff that you've been talking about, where you've been through on the medical stuff, on social stuff, on all the things that we covered today, because there's so much going on and we can't put that in just one podcast. I got always 12
questions. We could totally do this again.
Oh yeah, we will. We will, absolutely. I always have 12 questions for my guest, and I want to ask you them. Okay. But first of all, I want to one take about what you said about the Bible. Read your Bible, read your Bible. Do you mean with that you can find help in the times that we're living right now? So Jesus has been through a lot of stories that been told in the Bible about how he dealt with the struggles that he had, first of all. And do you maybe see it also as a guideline how to live the best life for yourself and also for God?
I do. I also know that it's hard. I fail often, but that's one of the reasons why every day I know I need God, is because I'm human. I'm going to fail. There's going to be earlier this morning, I felt like I was a terrible mother because a terrible teacher, because I could not get my son to understand syllables for a minute. Eventually he did. It took him a little while, but those moments, I mean, I feel like it's easy to say, go to the Bible, but it's hard to apply what you read in the Bible in your life on a daily basis, right? It's hard for me. I don't wake up and I don't know.
No,
I don't wake up and I'm like,
but if you see, sorry,
I need coffee. I'm tired.
Coming down. Well,
I feel like the Bible has a lot more answers than humans want to accept.
Right. I had something really nice going on. I had a podcast with Milton Ocampo the other day, right? And he pointed out at the podcast at 2 hours and 16 minutes. He was talking about one of my questions that I have also for you. He was talking about God. And he said on that podcast, maybe God is hiding from us. And in the back, he had this window in the back where he is sitting, right? There was a shiny light when he said that, when maybe God is hiding for us. And was it my telephone or something?
Sorry, that was a train.
Oh
no, that's me. No, that's
well,
me.
there he is again, right?
By. My husband and my son just got home.
Yeah, but the timing is again. Maybe God is hiding from us, and the train goes off. In my podcast, you saw the light coming out of the window, just like that, just like. Wow.
I don't think God's hiding from us. I feel like there's people that don't want to meet God for who he is. Like, I feel like some people are not giving credit where credit is due.
Mhm.
It's not God's fault that the world is in the shape that it's in right now. It's humans' fault. And even
Right.
more so, it's the devil. And so, I mean, I that's how I feel. I don't feel like God's hiding. I feel like we keep God hidden, but I don't feel like he's hiding from us. I feel like he wants us to know who he is. He wants us to be friends with him. You know, there was a period of time where I felt so isolated from God. I felt so alone. I had a friend that I don't talk to anymore, but you know, back then, who told me, she had me do this thing. And it was weird to do initially, but I got used to it pretty quick. And then my
Mhm.
friends thought I was crazy. But then they tried it and they were like, that actually helps a lot. So I struggled whenever I struggle with like connecting to God, feeling connection, right? This is what I do. I don't pray more. I don't really fast more. If I don't feel like I'm getting an answer from God, I'll fast. Okay. Um, if I don't feel the connection, I start to treat God like a person. And this is what I mean. I will open the door and have God go first, and then I'll go. I will sit down and maybe pour a cup of coffee for God and me. Like,
Wow.
it's just little things. If I'm driving in the car, right, I would go to the passenger side, like when I was in a really bad place. And these are things I kind of forgot to do a couple years ago. Like, I just didn't do them. Nobody reminded me. My own brain didn't think of it, right? But doing those little things, like opening the door for God and then going in the driver's seat, right?
Love that.
Turning around and talking to God, right? Not praying and I don't
You
know,
know
whatever
what?
people do.
Just
Just
like
like me and
he
you were
is
talking.
there, just like
Like
the
me and you were talking.
invisible man.
Yes, like me and
Yeah.
you were talking, like the
Oh,
same thing.
love that. Love that,
So
Libby.
I think if people did that, you know, I do that. Like, I like that. That's most of the time how I pray.
Hmm.
So
Good
I
one.
don't feel like hidden. I feel like people keep him hidden because he's right
Right.
there. You
I
just don't
love
see
this.
him like you see me, but he's right there.
But you have to acknowledge him and you have to ask him. And I think a lot of
Yeah,
people miss that out.
I think.
Libby, I
Are you
gonna.
guys here? Should I be done? I don't even know how long it's been. It's been over 2 hours. Oh, it has been over 2 hours? Okay.
Oh
My husband and
yeah,
I sat back.
I don't
I
have
wasn't
any
sure.
time, but I'm gonna ask you
Okay.
very briefly the 12 questions. I have to admit that they could be very harsh, but you have multiple answers that you can give, just to
Okay.
be
I
prepared.
could go into the other room so we could finish this
Yeah, no
real quick
props.
because yeah, here. Okay. Okay.
Okay. If you're sitting comfortable, I will ask you the questions.
Yeah. Go ahead so we can
So the
try to
first
wrap it up.
question, the first
Mhm.
question will be, what is your definition of God?
Uh, my definition of God would be Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the Messiah. I feel like God is the Trinity. There's God the Father, there's Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. That would be my definition of God.
Okay. The other question will be, what's your perception or definition of the devil?
The devil is a fallen angel that made a choice to rebel against God with his free will.
Mhm. What's your favorite color?
Pink.
What's your favorite music?
Oh, um, I like all music. I don't know if I have, well, most music. Probably like 1990s, like the 90s alternative, you know, Metallica, Nirvana. Like, I like that.
Oh, I like that.
90s.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like the old Metallica, also a little bit more the Black Album and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the old, like the 90s. I'm definitely like a 90s music chick
Right.
for sure.
Okay. What's your favorite movie or series?
My gosh, my favorite movie. It's a good question.
It's a hard one, I know.
It is, or like series. I mean, I guess it depends on what my mood would have been. I don't know if I have like really a favorite. I love Game of Thrones. I know it was a TV series, but I feel like it was just one of the best movies. I loved Battlestar Galactica.
Hmm.
I thought was really incredible, like in terms of a show, you know. But I'm really not huge when it comes to movies. Maybe I have to really think about that one. I like Twilight. Like I was a huge Twilight nerd back when Twilight was big.
Uh-huh.
I really don't watch very many movies though.
It was fun because yesterday I had a podcast with Sean Hibbler. Probably you know him from Level Me, Level With
Yeah.
Me, and the Next Level. He's working on another one, Old World Order. And he said, well, the old me
Mm-hmm.
and the new me, because we went all through some wake up time, if it's going to be flat earth or whatever, but we're connected in this ether, in this consciousness that and he said, can
Yeah.
I give you two answers? I said, yeah, of course, no props. Libby, what's your favorite book?
Yeah, I'd have to probably think about that a little bit harder, but oh, my favorite book is a book called A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. It's my favorite book. I've read it multiple times. I probably should read it again. It's been a few
All right.
years.
And it was a tree in.
A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. It's a beautiful story.
I'm going to put that in the show links.
Okay.
What's
This
your
is great.
favorite? What's your favorite kind of drink, beverage?
Like alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
No, you can choose whatever you want. I think in America, beverage is like alcohol and booze, and drink is like normal, right?
I like raw milk. Like cold raw milk.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. What's your favorite
My
food?
favorite. So good. My favorite what?
Food.
Oh, I would probably say Moroccan, Mediterranean. Like I was raised with spicy.
Mm. What kind of clothing you like to wear the most?
What kind of what?
Clothing.
Clothing. Comfortable.
Just
Like whatever is just comfy. Yeah. Or dresses. I love wearing dresses. So probably anything that's comfortable in a dress.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite vacation destination?
An island.
No matter what?
Island. I wanted to go to Hawaii for like my entire life. Like I would dream about being in Hawaii and being like a tropical island. Me and my mom used to watch Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous when I was a child, you know, and Bob Ross. So I always wanted to go to an island, and my husband gave me the best vacation ever. Our honeymoon was in Maui, and it was just perfect. We've been to the islands, the Hawaiian Islands, several times. I'm very, very, very blessed. So definitely a tropical island for sure.
Wow. What's your favorite quote?
Though she be but little, she is fierce. Shakespeare.
What's your life's motto?
Um, Probably our family's motto: faith, family, and freedom.
Faith, family, and freedom. That's a good one. Libby, thank you very much for your time and energy and for sharing your stories and your journeys through life with us. For all the listeners.
Thank you for asking me to do this. It's been a long time, but I was really looking forward to it. I'm really glad. It was nice.
Good. Probably I'm going to hook you up for a second part because I feel that there's a lot of other topics that we can discuss or go deeper in because
for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because there's so much we can talk about and so much we can give to others.
I feel like this was a lot more of a personal, you know, I talk more about my personal life with you than I have with lots of other podcasters. I talked a lot about Agenda 2045 and all the crazy things with them, but it's all kind of out there now. So I don't know. People have asked me if there's a part 3 coming for Agenda 2045, and I'm like, do you want to see the robots take over? I mean, I think that's what would be next.
You just go watch what's it, Terminator, and you see it, or Blade Runner, or stuff like that. I mean, they're all
You know what?
there already.
I would say if anybody wants to watch anything that I would consider like predictive programming, like very accurate of what's going on, to watch the HBO series Westworld.
Oh,
I'm finishing it up for research purposes, like literally. Yeah, so me and my husband have a couple more episodes to go, and then we'll be done with the series. But that's what's coming.
That's mind-boggling. And you know that there is a movie, Western World.
Westworld.
Yeah, Westworld. Yeah,
from the 70s.
Yeah,
yeah. You know who made that movie? I was just reading about him. It was I forget. I always say his name wrong. My husband, Michael Crichton.
That name pops up in my mind. Like, wait a minute.
Jurassic Park, Contagion. He died in 2008. Put that also
in the show link, because I saw the movie like, I think like 4 months ago, the original one where the series is based on.
Right. Yeah. He's an interesting author to read about if you're going to read. I won't share too much, but what I was researching into something, and his name popped up, and I was like, let's take a look at this a little bit more. And yeah, so I found out some stuff about him that I didn't know.
It's unbelievable how a smaller rabbit hole could be, and where Alice fell in, how big it is. I mean, you keep on tumbling down, you know.
I see the rabbit holes like caves.
Oh yeah, and they're really big.
Exactly, like a cave.
Yeah,
they open up and you're like, oh shit, I thought it was just right there, but it's all the way over there, actually.
Exactly. Completely civilizations living there already.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. I had a really, really great time. I'll just mention the only places really that I have, content on or anything online right now is on my Instagram. I have the main page, Lady Liberty Libby. There's the backup. I have an art page on there, and my Patreon. That's really all I've got right now.
I'm gonna send that off. I'm gonna put it also in the show description so that they can look at your stuff, what you're doing, and you're doing a great job. Please continue doing it, and you're a very brave woman, very strong with all the shit that you've been through. It just made you stronger, and thank you for hopping on. And for all the listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode from Disorganized Productions. And no matter where you are on this beautiful plain earth, have a beautiful morning, a beautiful day, or beautiful evening, no matter where you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. I've been running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light and hold me tight. I've been running for all my life with the devil on my heels. He wasn't always kind, and he couldn't fulfill my dreams. He's a pain in the ass, black as a night. God, show me the light and hold me tight.